April 6, 1862. A Kentucky farmer wakes before sunrise, loads his rifle, and marches toward his brother. Not to embrace him, to kill him. The American Civil War didn't just divide a nation, it tore through the heart of individual families, turning dining rooms into battlegrounds and brothers into enemies. This is the story of blood against blood, where the most intimate betrayals happened not in shadows, but in broad daylight on America's killing fields. Kentucky, 1861. The state declares neutrality, but neutrality is a luxury families cannot afford. Senator John Crittenden's two sons make their choices. Thomas joins the Union. George joins the Confederacy. Both become generals. They are not alone. In Maryland, Delaware, Missouri, the border states become pressure cookers of conflicting loyalty. Sons defy fathers. Brothers refuse to speak. Wives choose sides against husbands. Historians estimate over 100,000 soldiers from border states fought for the opposing side of their home state's majority. But numbers don't capture the anguish. How do you aim a rifle at the boy who taught you to fish? The causes of the Civil War are etched in history books: slavery, states' rights, economic division. But these abstract concepts became devastatingly personal when they invaded homes. James Campbell of Pennsylvania believes in Union preservation. His brother Alexander, who moved south, believes in Southern sovereignty. Both believe they're defending freedom. Both are willing to die for it. The letters they wrote reveal the transformation. Early correspondence shows concern, attempts at persuasion. By 1862, the words turn cold. "If we meet on the battlefield, I will show no mercy." Alexander writes this to James, not in anger, in resignation. This is how ideology becomes personal. This is how brothers become enemies. Shiloh, Tennessee, the bloodiest battle America has yet seen. 23,000 casualties in 2 days. Somewhere in that hell, brothers from Illinois meet. Private William Polk doesn't recognize his brother Robert until the bayonet is inches from his chest. Robert, fighting for the Confederacy, freezes. For 3 seconds, an eternity in battle, neither moves. According to witness testimony recorded after the war, William whispers 2 words: "Do it." Robert pulls his bayonet back, fires his rifle into the air, turns and runs into the smoke. They never see each other again. William survives the war. Robert dies at Gettysburg, a bullet through his heart. William spends the rest of his life wondering if he fired it. Senator John Crittenden's nightmare is uniquely public. His son Thomas commands Union forces. His son George commands Confederate forces. Both are brilliant tacticians. Both lead men to their deaths. In 1862, they face each other indirectly at the Battle of Mill Springs, Kentucky. George's Confederate forces are routed by Union troops under his brother's command. George escapes, but 533 of his men do not. The senator attempts reconciliation, writes letters to both, begs them to resign their commissions. Thomas responds, "Father, I love my brother, but I love my country more." George writes nearly identical words from the other side. This is the paradox of civil war. Love doesn't vanish, it becomes irrelevant. Duty becomes everything. History remembers the soldiers, but the women carried impossible weight. Mary Todd Lincoln, the president's wife, had 4 brothers fighting for the Confederacy. 4 brothers trying to destroy everything her husband built. When her brother Alexander dies at Baton Rouge, wearing Confederate gray, she cannot publicly mourn. Washington society already whispers, "Traitor." Her grief must be silent, performed in empty rooms. In Missouri, Martha Anderson receives 2 letters on the same day. One informs her that her Union son died at Wilson's Creek, the other that her Confederate son died in the same battle, possibly within yards of his brother. She buries them in the same grave. The headstone reads simply, "Brothers." No names, no sides, just brothers. The numbers are staggering. In Kentucky alone, 35,000 men fought for the Confederacy, 75,000 for the Union. Nearly every family was divided. But here's what history books rarely mention. At least 10% of all Civil War casualties, approximately 62,000 men, had immediate family members fighting for the opposite side: brothers, fathers and sons, cousins. In some regiments, the percentage was higher. The 1st Kentucky Brigade, Confederate, fought against the 1st Kentucky Brigade, Union, at the Battle of Perryville, Kentucky. Over 200 men died. Post-war records show that at least 30 of those men had brothers in the opposing regiment. Imagine that moment, loading your rifle, firing into smoke, and wondering, was that him? Did I just kill my own blood? April 9, 1865. Lee surrenders at Appomattox. The war ends, but for families, the battle continues. How do you forgive? How do you forget? Can you sit at Thanksgiving dinner across from the man who fought to preserve the system that enslaved millions, even if he's your brother? Some families reconciled quickly. Others never did. Census records show thousands of cases where brothers lived in the same county after the war, but never spoke again. The Crittenden brothers, Thomas and George, did reconcile. They met in 1868, 3 years after the war ended. George extended his hand. Thomas hesitated, then took it. According to family records, they spoke for 6 hours. What they said remains private. Some wounds are too deep for history.
In cemeteries across America, brothers lie in eternal proximity. Same blood, same soil, different sides of history. The Civil War killed 620,000 Americans, more than all other American wars combined until Vietnam. But the psychological casualties were infinite. Post-war psychiatric records, newly digitized in 2019, reveal thousands of veterans suffering from what doctors called fraternal combat syndrome. Veterans reported nightmares of killing their brothers, depression, survivor's guilt. One Kentucky veteran wrote in 1873, "I survived 4 years of war, but I cannot survive the memory of my brother's eyes when he fell." That veteran never learned if his brother survived. He spent 30 years wondering, died wondering. The American Civil War tested the very concept of brotherhood, not just metaphorical brotherhood between citizens, but actual brotherhood, blood, bone, and memory. Today, we speak of polarization, of families divided by politics. We say we've never been more divided. But history reminds us we survived worse. We survived literal fratricide. The brothers who fought and killed each other believed they were fighting for America. Different visions, same love. That paradox nearly destroyed us, but it also revealed something profound. Even in our darkest hour, when we aimed rifles at our own reflections, we remained brothers. The fields of blood have grown over, the rifles have rusted, but the lesson remains. There is no victory in civil war, only survival, only, eventually, forgiveness. In 1913, 50 years after Gettysburg, Union and Confederate veterans met on that battlefield for a reunion. They shook hands across the stone wall where they'd once tried to kill each other. Thousands of them wept openly. A reporter asked one veteran, "What do you remember most?" He replied,
that we were all Americans. We just forgot for a while.